My name's Jeremy Myers. I'm the Executive Director of the Christensen Center of Vocation. This is a series we've been doing for the last year and a half. Vocation Chapels, or we call it Uncovering Vocation. We invite members of the Augsburg community to come to chapel and share just a little bit of their call story, their vocation story with our community as a way of getting to know one another and diving deeper into vocation and what it might mean for each of us. So today, I have the pleasure of introducing my friend Joanne Reeck. We were sitting here earlier talking about how long you can hold your breath, and we started thinking about all the things you spend years doing in your life, and I did the math real quick, and I figured out that you spend a full day, 25 hours, if you brush your teeth the way your dentist tells you to brush your teeth, you will spend a full 25 hours a year brushing your teeth. So then, of course, I'm 50, so that means I've spent 50 days of my life just brushing my teeth. That has nothing to do with what we're here for today, but it was an insight, and I felt like I needed to share it. So, thank you. Deeply moving. I can't sing the blues, so I have to, Joanne, we're here for Joanne and her story. Joanne Reeck's our VP for Equity and Inclusion, but has served many roles in her time here at Augsburg. She is deeply passionate about educating and training around the issues of intercultural competency, social justice, and anti-oppression work. She earned her master's degree in higher education at the University of Minnesota and is currently wrapping up her PhD in educational leadership. That's a big deal. She's also, and I know this, she's a marching band aficionado, right? Plays softball, camps, hikes, and is the mother of Mateo. And she's also pretty funny. So let's welcome Joanne Reeck today.
Okay, I didn't know he was going to tell you all that I was seeing how long I could hold my breath. So I, first of all, Sam, that's enough to distract me for the rest of the day. You're truly gifted. And thank you to Jeremy for asking me to be a part of this series. I'm excited to be here. So interestingly enough, I don't have any notes. This is just a timer to make sure that I stay on task. So I'm going to be honest. When Jeremy first asked and said, Joanne, would you be willing to be a part of our initiative to get to know each other, to share information about vocation, I said, I don't know, because I don't really like to talk about myself that much, and I'm shy, and I'm just kidding. All right, so a little bit about me. Again, Joanne Reeck, she, her, hers. Believe it or not, this is my 15th year here at Augsburg. 15 years, and so. 15 days of brushing your teeth. And when I think about that, that is a significant amount of time. My son, who was 12, doesn't even know a different place that's connected to me. He doesn't even know of a different place. And I would be fine if he would attend Augsburg, but the fact that he gets angry when I tell him there's other universities is something we have to maybe navigate. So he said, when I go there, and I'm like, yeah, that would be good, but there's other options. And he goes, no, only Augsburg. And I'm like, all right, sir. So yeah, I've been here for a while, and I think that it's a huge part of the hugest part of my life, one of the hugest pieces of my life. So how did I get here? What's my vocation story? So I did go to undergrad at the U of M Twin Cities, and I graduated from the School of Journalism, where my talents lie are around writing. I can usually write pretty well. And specifically within the School of Journalism, they had a public relations major. And so I, like many students, went to the Career Center when it was, the middle of my sophomore year, to take one of those inventories that says, based on your strengths and desires, here's a list of 7 jobs you'd be good at, because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it said public relations. And I read a little bit about it, and I'm like, okay, let's do that. And that's how I decided my future. So I started taking those classes in the School of Journalism, and we had an individual in that role come in from the community who worked in public relations and talk about that role. And I decided then and there that I didn't want to do that. Not that it's not a great job, but once he talked about having to put on a good face for a company that you may or may not agree with some of the moves they were making, that wasn't for me, because I would do a horrible job trying to speak well of a place that I didn't feel well of. So, and I'm just like, maybe you should have thought about that before you designed the rest of your undergraduate around doing this. So I was just like, what do I do now? I want to graduate in 4 years. I need to take a pivot. Went and talked to my academic advisor. And advertising was really close to public relations. A lot of those classes were in line. So I read a little bit about it, and I decided I wanted to be an account exec. I could work with someone. I could help move the pieces between the creatives and the client and come up with a marketing campaign. I could do that. I could schmooze, I could make friends, I could come up with ideas, lead people. So that was my emphasis in the School of Journalism, was advertising. I was very lucky because even though we are in a middle level like city, like a mid city, we had, a few decent advertising companies, not a lot. And there definitely weren't enough internships to go around, but I was lucky enough to get an internship at Martin Williams Advertising. It's okay if you don't know about that company. And I was doing well. And after graduation, they said, right now you're an intern, but you're doing well enough that after you graduate, we will hire you on as an assistant account exec. And I'm like, this is awesome. I got this figured out, I'm good to go. Nobody remembers this, but in 2001, there was a slight recession, like nothing like the recent ones that we've had, but in 2001, there was a recession. And one day, my internship boss at the time called me in and said, I know that we promised you a job after you graduate, but we're having a hiring freeze, and we're not going to be able to offer you that position. You can stay on at the intern rate, but you can't. We're not, and we don't know in the foreseeable future if we're going to be able to hire you on in any capacity. So I panicked because I leased my first car. I was moving out of university housing or university-owned housing into a new place. Like, I had bills. I already planned everything based on this promise. And now they're saying you're gonna just keep at the internship level. No, that wasn't gonna work. So I panicked. And at the time, I was a part of a program called Inroads. It's also okay if you don't know about Inroads. But I said, can you help me find a new internship or a new job, actually? And they pulled some strings, and they said, okay, we're going to get you a job at Marshall Fields, which at the time was connected to Target, so Target Corp. And I worked at the downtown one, which is no longer there, just aging myself by the day. And they gave me a job in the buying offices of Marshall Fields downtown. So here's something I need to tell y'all about me. No. I am not corporate by any stretch of the means. I don't fit in with folks. Not that they're not great. I have nothing in common with folks who love the corporate world. Nothing. Like to joke, be silly, be outlandish, loud. No, I worked in the men's shoe department. So I could tell you how many pairs of Ferragamos were going to the Chicago North, like it was ridiculous. And I hated it. I was sad all the time. Didn't care about men's shoes. Didn't care. We'd have to have meetings where they'd say, they'd say, how many did you sell? What are your numbers? Didn't care and was sad. Hated my job. So for those of you who know me really well, I'm very close to my mom. So I would complain to her, I hate my job, this is the worst. I just took it so I wouldn't default on things, and she couldn't stand it. And one day she said, well, then think about what you like to do and change jobs. And then I looked at her and I said, I don't know what I like to do, I just know that I don't like this. And my advertising agency picture of life, went to the wayside. And she goes, you gotta like some things. And I looked at her and I said, I liked college. She's like, what? And I'm like, I liked college. So just so y'all know, I was a college involvement dork. Like I had maroon and gold braids. Maroon and gold braids. I did. I was a gopher. I was an orientation leader. I was a tour guide. I was an admissions ambassador. I was in the marching band. Played on your murals. Like I was it. I loved college, loved everything about it. And I looked at her and I said, I love college. And she looked back to me and she goes, then work at a college. And I go, and that was the conversation. So the very next day, I said, well, and it's so funny because I just come up with one idea and then like do it. Like there's lots of colleges. The only college I can think of is my college, so UVM Twin Cities. So I'm like, all right, how can I work at this college? While there are so many jobs that can be had at a university, the one that people only think of is like admissions counselor. I'm like, I'm gonna be an admissions counselor. And so I called the admissions office and I said, hello, I want to talk to an admissions officer. I don't know if you know anything about colleges that are around 60,000 people and relatively selective, but you can't just talk to admissions counselor. You have to be like screened. You don't go through to admissions counselor, you go to a call center. And then based on what you need, you're placed on like a triage of when you get called back, right? And I called when they were in the middle of recruitment. So unless I am a high school senior looking to go to, they don't have time to talk to a random that wants to talk to an admissions counselor. So I just said, yeah, I just want to know a little bit more about the job, learn a little bit. And they're like, yeah, they'll get back to you. And so me being impatient and taking the hint that probably they wouldn't be calling me back soon, I may have called back again. And they answered, and I said, hello, and they said, hello, and I said, hi, my name's Sandy Johnson. And Sandy Johnson was a person that I graduated high school with. Don't know why I didn't use my own name. They don't know me, really, but I used Sandy Johnson. And then they're like, how can I help you, Sandy? And I'm like, yeah, I'm a senior in high school. And this is a true story, every last word of it. And they're like, okay, well, what high school did you go to? Don't know why I didn't use my own, because again, it's make-up-believe time. So I said, Blaine High School. I have no connection to Blaine High School. It just came out. So I'm Sandy Johnson from Blaine High School. And they're like, all right. And what are you thinking about? What would you like to talk about? And I'm like, I want to go to the School of Journalism. And I have great grades. I just threw that in there. And then they said, okay, we'll put you through. I'm like, I knew it. So I went through to an admissions counselor. It doesn't matter, but her name is Amy Dostal-Dower. Doesn't matter. And she said, hello, Sandy. And I took a deep breath and I said, okay, whatever you do, don't hang up, but I'm not Sandy. And there was this pause. And then she goes, I'm going to tell you right now, nothing in this world could make me hang up. This is so much fun. And I was just like, yes. So she said, okay, well, who are you really? So I explained who I was, and I said, okay, I just made up all of that so that I could talk to an admissions counselor. And she goes, love it, love it. And I'm just so happy that I got to talk to her. And I explained to her, here's the deal. I'm a new graduate. I had to take a job, and the company that the folks that were giving me a scholarship just said this is the only one left. And I just took it, and I hate it. And I think I want to work at a university. I want to work at a college, and I think I want to be an admissions counselor. And she said, I don't know if somebody's watching out for you, but I'm leaving in 2 months. And then I'm just like, really? Why are you telling me this? And she goes, because I think you should go for my job. She's like, there's something going on that we don't know about that's literally like made you call today. And here's the thing, there's different like areas that the admissions counselors serve. So by me randomly saying Blaine, I was routed to this admissions counselor. If I would have said a different high school, I would have been routed somewhere else where maybe they wouldn't have been there to pick up. Maybe they would have hung up when I said my name really isn't Sandy. Like, think about somebody watching over you. Think about that. And she goes, there's some reason you were supposed to call me. We've been talking for about 47 minutes, and I just think you need my job, and I'm leaving in 2 months. And I said, okay, well, what should I do? And she said, this is what you're going to do. And then she said, you're going to send a resume to my boss. Doesn't matter. Her name's Heidi Meyer. You're going to send it to her, and then you're going to ask just for an informational interview. Pretend that you don't know that my job's going to be open, and hey, if you do a good job, she'll invite you into the formal process because a lot of people want this job. And it's kind of the only way you're going to get in with no like background is impressor when you come in for an informational interview. And so I did it, and I had her job 2 months later. And I was sitting in her office and talking on her phone and working with Blaine High School. And so that was my first job in higher education, my second job ever of my life, like official job. I worked at Dairy Queen. But like it was my first job in higher education, and I loved it. I killed admissions counselor. I'm just telling you, I killed it. Loved it. And it was so much fun. The U of M, they have their own like car rental system. So whenever I traveled, I got to pick out a brand new car. And for, a youngster, that's fun. You get to have your own car that you pick out in the lot. You get your hotel paid for, and you go tell college students how they can come to your school. I can't imagine anything better. So much fun. So I did that for a while. Then it was time to move on. I moved on to student unions and activities, so student affairs-y type stuff. Loved that. It was fun. Then I moved on to orientation and first-year programs at the U of M, which was really fun. It's where I really, really got to work with students. The incoming class at that time at the U of M was probably around 5,500 for the incoming class. And I got to be in charge of the orientation leaders who did orientation for 5,500 incoming students across all the colleges of the U of M. And it was so fun. And looking back, I never saw myself really leaving until a now really great friend of mine who used to work here at Augsburg encouraged me to apply to be the director of orientation here at Augsburg. So I'm like, I don't know anything else other than EU. And he said, no, you gotta keep progressing, you gotta keep moving. Augsburg's great, it's close, you can do this. So I applied, and I got the role of director of orientation at Augsburg. And it was funny because, like, I joke, but I do try to be humble. But my favorite question is, do you think you can handle orientation? We have an incoming class of 400, And I was like, I think I can handle that. That's a Tuesday. So I got that role, and I've been at Augsburg ever since. So when I close my story, talking about vocation, there was no corner of my mind that thought I would ever be in higher education. Didn't even think of it as an option. It was furthest, I really thought I would be an account exec working at an advertising agency. And I think that sometimes where you're supposed to be, you end up. And I think that working with students and being around folks, I feel that a lot of times students are the folks who still think that there is a chance at a better tomorrow. I do think that there's adults, not older adults, that think that, but for some reason, I think that students, young adult students in college, are the ones that really, really have that altruistic view of what tomorrow could be. And I think that being able to spend time with them helps me to stay that way in my thinking. And I think that that's really healthy for me, and it makes me happy, and it brings me joy. And that's why I'm so happy that through my mom listening to me complain and helping to move me towards where I think I was meant to be, is that I'm looking back at 15 years in a field that I never even comprehended as an option to work in. And so I will close what I'm saying today, is that I want you to consider that the plans that you have made for yourself might be fabulous plans, but they also might be totally not what's going to happen at any far stretch of the imagination. And what ends up happening could actually be just what you needed, and could actually be something really profoundly important to who you continue to become. So that is my vocation story.